You need to be getting out of these 14 different US cities right now. 14 different mayors from 14 different cities announced a new plan to restrict travel and to restrict the food you are able to eat. That is what they are now announcing, and this plan is going to go into full effect. All right, you need to be getting away from these major cities, and it's going to spread. More and more of these mega cities are going to sign on to this plan, and you are not going to be able to drive in certain areas with certain cars without being taxed or restricted. You are not going to be able to eat certain foods, and especially things like meat are going to be heavily taxed and heavily restricted in these areas. All right, so you need to be getting out of these 14 major US cities before it's too late. So you need to be getting your family as prepared as possible. You need to be getting as off-grid as possible. You need to have a generator. You need to have water tanks. You need to have food storage. All of these things you need to be prepping like crazy, because they are trying to implement this control grid right now. All right, they are implementing these 15-minute smart cities. That is the plan. And now 14 major US cities have signed onto this plan as well. All right, so, and it's going to spread. They're going to try to make this a national thing. We just had the federal government take over the internet as well. All these things are coming. Global internet IDs, social credit scores, carbon credits, and rationing of our resources. And we're going to see allotments for your energy use, your car use, and your food use in the future. All of these things will be allotted to you through carbon credits. That's the plan that these people have, and 14 US cities are accelerating this plan right now, running full speed ahead towards it. All right, so let's get into the details of this plan, and then I will get to you these 14 US cities as well. All right, but you can see here, these are called C40 cities. That's what this plan is called, the C40 initiative. Okay, they have all these different plans going on, and they have signed up 14 different mayors to implement food controls and travel controls as well. So let's get into the food controls here. You can see here this plate. All right, this is the plate of food. This is what they want your plate of food to look like right here. Okay, they're calling this a planetary health diet. You can see here C4 cities, good food cities accelerators. And right there in the bottom paragraph, it says cities committing to this accelerator will work with residents to achieve a, quote, planetary health diet for all by 2030, with balanced and nutritious food reflective of the culture, geography, and demography of their residents. All right, so this is what a planetary health diet looks like. When you click on that link there, it takes you to a website with this page right here. So look at that. Look at that tiny little sliver animal source protein, dairy foods. All these things are going to be phased out and restricted and become mandatory by 2030 in these 14 cities. Okay? And even if you are allowed to have these foods, they're going to be heavily taxed and heavily discouraged as well. They're trying to shut down our ranching capability, our farming capability. Look at who's buying all the farmland throughout the country. Bill Gates. Okay, he's the largest farmland owner. He sells potatoes to McDonald's, the largest seller of that. His potato farms. All right, they want to phase out meat completely and replace that with synthetic meat, synthetic lab-grown GMO meat that is actually grown with human cancer cells. I made a whole video on that, how the basis of this cell replication comes from human cancer cells from a woman named Henrietta Lacks that had a very powerful cancer. I've made a whole video documenting on that, but that is something that they've just approved recently, the FDA, and they're going to replace that animal source protein with lab source protein as well. That's all you're going to get. You're not going to have any, and they're shutting down farms, everything all over the world, cattle farms and dairy farms. Let's dive into these travel restrictions here that they are implementing as well, and then we will get into these 14 cities. All right, but you can see here they are also implementing high impact air quality measures and solutions. And it says implementing policies and programs to reduce local air pollution emission sources from residential transport or industrial sectors such as low and zero emission zones. So what that is these cities, as soon as you enter their boundaries, you are going to be taxed. It's going to be a low or zero emission zone, and you are not going to be able to drive trucks, RVs, any kind of high emission vehicle that they claim is not going to be allowed in the zone. And if you drive in the zone, you are going to get extreme taxed and fines, and potentially even get your license revoked. All these things, this stuff can pile up quickly. And they have cameras as well. They have emission cameras. So just like they have red light cameras, they have emission cameras tracking every single car that is entering this zone. And they actually already have stuff like this in London. All right, so look at this map around London. They call them clean air zones in the UK. And as soon as you enter this zone, I was reading a story about a guy that drove his RV in there accidentally traveling around, and he was hit with over $1,500 in fines for driving around London because he just kept driving by cameras, and every single one would charge him extreme amounts. All right. So this stuff is coming to these 14 cities in the US as well, these emission air zones. And we also see them shutting down farmers all over the globe, okay? The EU okays 1.6 billion for Dutch government to buy out farmers and reduce nitrogen. This was a few months ago, earlier this year, 6 months ago. But this plan is going global as well. They want to shut down our food production and shut down our travel and restrict it, all right, and eventually have a beast tracking system. That's why all these power grabs are happening right now. So let's get into these 14 cities that are going to get hit hard with this, and they are signed onto this plan, the C40 initiative. You can see here Austin, Texas, Boston, Massachusetts, Chicago, Illinois, Houston, Texas, Los Angeles, California, Miami, Florida, Montreal, Canada, New Orleans, Louisiana, New York City, New York, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Phoenix, Arizona, Portland, Oregon, San Francisco, California, Seattle, Washington, Toronto, Canada, Vancouver, and Washington, D.C. Okay, that's 14 U.S. cities and a few Canadian cities as well. I believe 3 Canadian cities are in there as well. All right, are all signed on to this plan to implement these low, zero emission zones to restrict. Did you see that plate? Is that what you want your plate to look like? That's not what my plate looks like when I'm eating. There's a lot more meat on there and a lot more food. It's not just half spinach and tomatoes. I'm sorry, that is not half of my diet. I'm just being real here. That is not half of it. All right, and that's what they want your plate to look like, and they want to force this on you by 2030. This plan is coming. That's why we're seeing all these shortages, all these food production facilities being targeted, burned down, explosions, all these cattle just dropping like flies. All right, that's why we are seeing all these attacks on our food supply. All right, because they want to shut it down and force us onto this diet. And there's actually going to be some bugs in there too. They just didn't want to show that part yet, but there's going to be a bug section as well, and it's probably going to be a big section that they want to replace this bug protein. All right, and you actually cannot digest the chitin that the bug's exoskeleton is made of. Humans are not made to digest the chitin, and it can actually become very toxic for humans. They're not supposed to eat it. All right, that's why birds and things can eat it. They have gizzards, they have rocks in their gizzard that can grind up the chitin, but humans do not have that, and it can actually be very toxic to your body, eating these bugs and their exoskeletons all the time. All right, so this is the future. They want to restrict travel, restrict your food, and then once everything's clamped down, they're going to start locking people out of the system. The beast system is going to be implemented. You're going to have to make allegiances to this state or this world government that is being implemented. You're going to have to make allegiances to it to get your carbon credit ration, right? That's the future here. And I've made whole videos how they have carbon credit technology tracked to cryptocurrencies. They have patents on it and everything. where it's attached to your movement. So you literally do work and you do jobs and you get cryptocurrency allotments, carbon credit allotments, and then you can convert that into driving your car or getting food or whatever. This is what the future is, this UBI dystopia where they control everything and you are lucky to live in your little pod and get your ration. All right, so make sure you are getting as self-sufficient as possible. Make sure you're getting as off-grid as possible. All right, I've lived off-grid in my RV with my family for years off water tanks and generators. All right, I'm in my RV right now recording this video, and you need to be getting as off-grid as possible and prepared as possible, because we could see a big takeover or a big collapse, or a collapse first, a major cyber attack, a major grid event, grid down, and the rebirth of it is rationing and control to make sure that never happens again. All right, to make sure that we can have enough resources for everyone. They're going to have to control and track and trace everything, and everyone's going to have IDs for every aspect of society. Social credit systems are coming. They're already there, but they are unleashing them very soon. So make sure you are getting prepared. Make sure you are getting stocked up on rice, beans, water filter, canned food, canned meat, canned ravioli, canned vegetables, canned fruit, canned peaches. Get stocked up on all these things now. And if you've stocked up on this stuff years ago and you're rotating it into your pantry, think of how much more money everything costs now. So even if it's just to combat the inflation that is happening with our food, if you bought stuff right now, it's going to be more valuable in the future. You can almost guarantee, and items are going to be potentially more valuable than currency even is worth. Okay, they want to hyperinflate our dollar and ruin our monetary system and bring in a crypto, a central banking digital currency, a CBDC, a crypto federal currency. That's what they want to bring in. And once they have that, they can lock you out of buying certain things, but certain goods you're not allowed to buy. That is the future of this system, and these 14 cities have already signed on to this. All right, so make sure you hit it up down there to help get this video out to more people. People need to know about these 14 cities. Go check out my video yesterday. All right, the FCC just took over the internet. They just voted yesterday to completely take over the internet, and there's new internet rules that are being implemented, and it's potentially going to change everything. It's going to change everything. This is going to be a major power grab, and even one of the commissioners was begging and pleading for them to not implement this, but it went through yesterday. All right, so go check out that video if you didn't see it, and please get prepared, get blessed, spend time with your family, spend time with your friends. All right, build these local communities, start growing food, and just give food away to people. That's what I was always doing when we were not in our RV yet. I would just grow food and give it to neighbors, give eggs to neighbors. I would just have excess and give it to them. And if you're in a neighborhood, it's a good way to, butter up your neighbors so they don't complain that you have a greenhouse or something in your backyard, or chickens or ducks or whatever. That's what I had, is chickens, ducks, greenhouses everywhere in a residential area. So thank you guys so much. Get stocked up on gold, silver, coins, copper, lead, all these precious metals you need to be stocked up on as much as possible. All right, so thank you guys, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.